welcome you all. My name is Joanna DiCarlo, Director of Athletics for the Westborough Public Schools, and it is such an extreme honor and a privilege to be with you here this morning to induct into our 2019 Hall of Fame such a wonderful class and a diverse class, a class that represents all that is good and wonderful in the tradition of Westborough athletics. So I really am very honored to be here and welcome you. I have the distinction of giving you kind of the nuts and bolts of the day. And then we're going to hear from our principal, Mr. Brian Callahan. We are a great team. We say we tag team all the time. I'm really good at delivering information, and he's a much more eloquent presenter than I am. So we really do each other justice. So first thing, just a couple of logistics I know that are important to everyone. Bathrooms are not down on this level, unfortunately. We do have some bathrooms up at the top of the stairs. If you go straight, and on the right-hand side, you'll find one single stall. If that's occupied, you can go around towards our main office, and there's boys and girls rooms heading towards the main lobby and the main office. Our students in the back, we have a hand for our student ambassadors in the back there. You can approach them at any time during the program, and they will help you out with trying to get to anywhere you need to get to in the building, whether it's a bathroom, you want to see the gyms that you used to play in, any of that sort of stuff. Our student ambassadors back there are more than welcome, more than happy to help you out with that. Our plan for the day, we're going to do this wonderful induction ceremony. After this, we do have what's going on outside. It's called Ranger Fest. It's our student council's version of homecoming. You are more than welcome to go and walk through that. It's a beautiful day out. Enjoy some time with our students. And then at 1 o'clock, our football game will kick off. All right. We are planning on recognizing our inductees at halftime of the football game. So I've provided all of you with blue tickets. That's free entrance into our football game. If anybody needs more tickets, just come see me. But at halftime, right around the end of the second quarter, so maybe about 3 or 4 minutes left in the second quarter, if those of you that are going to be joining us on the field, the inductees and certainly all of the volleyball players, could meet me down by the main gate of the field, we'll get you guys set up to be able to go out at halftime. All right, we're going to recognize our Hall of Fame inductees first, and then our marching band will play. All right, so that's sort of the schedule for the day. I also wanted to really send out quite a few thank yous for the people that have made this day happen. We do not have a Hall of Fame committee. We have a handful of individuals that are really committed to this event, that really thoroughly enjoy putting on this event, and it is certainly a labor of love for us. So I really do need to thank a few people, if you can bear with me for a minute. My second in charge there, back there, Maura Shunny. For those of you that do not know, Maura's kids graduated probably 10 years ago, but Maura has continued to help me with some big events here in the athletics department, and she is an integral member of how this Hall of Fame gets put on. Everything from the decorations to the programs to the picking up the cake this morning at BJ. So whatever needs to happen for this event, Maura has always been there for me, so I thank you very much, Maura, and she really and helping her along the way, again, a woman whose kids graduated a long time ago. I think the first year I was here, 2007, one of her sons was here. But Jill Williams in the back has continued to help Maura out and provide us with a ton of support throughout this event, so thank you, Jill. But that has really upped our game in terms of graphics is Lisa Whitney Scott. So she has done our logos for you, all your table tents, the name tags, the programs, and Lisa volunteered her time this year to help out with that, which we really appreciate. And then Chartwell's, the custodial staff, our cafeteria staff, Mr. Callahan, the student ambassadors. It takes quite a few people to put on an event like this, and we're very fortunate here in the town of Westborough that no matter what it is that this community, or this department I should say, needs, this community has rallied around us and has really helped make every event that we do top-notch and certainly one to be proud of. So I definitely want to thank all of those other people that were involved. We had a few other women here yesterday that helped create this space. Maureen Johnson, Sarah Doyle, the list can go on and on about the people that pitch in when things are needed, so I really want to thank them. I am again very proud to be here today. In the 13 years that I've been here, I have gotten to know many of the people that are being inducted today, which is pretty special for me. I think the first few years I did this, I was the new kid on the block. We really did I did my first Hall of Fame class in 2009, and I had started here in 2007, and it was surreal. I didn't really quite know the players yet. I wasn't sure who was who, and it just kind of fumbled my way through it. So to be here now, 11 years later, and look out into this room and see so many familiar faces and so many people that have brought so much to this department over the last, my goodness, 50, 60, 70 years is just incredible for me. So I really do have a sense of pride and am filled with that today in a way that I sometimes forget about on a day-to-day basis when we're dealing with EEE curfews and weather. But today is a really nice reminder as to why we all feel so passionately about this place and about being part of the athletics program at Westborough High School. So at this time, it is my pleasure to bring up our principal at Westborough High School, my predecessor, the athletic director here for 6 years prior to him becoming an administrator in the principal's office, Mr. Brian Callahan.
Thank you, Joanna. It was great, before breakfast to see everybody reminiscing and talking with one another, introducing each other. Really was emblematic of the Ranger family that makes all of this possible. And there's a great quote by Lou Holtz. He's got a lot of great quotes. Some we can say, some we can't. But he's written some things about this too. But he said, "You've got to make a sincere attempt to have the right goals to begin with. Then go after them with appropriate effort. And remember that you can't really achieve anything great without the help of others." So that's part of that family that I think Holtz is connected with, and it's so great to see so many of you out here. I want to first welcome and say congratulations to our Hall of Fame guests, Hall of Fame inductees rather. They're special guests of ours here today, but always as well, right? Once a Ranger, always a Ranger. I want to say welcome to to the family and friends that have also joined in this recognition. I think it's important to recognize that outside of student athletes, outside of coaches, outside of administrators, the part that makes all of this so special is those people that kind of come in to that family and make up that family. We have jobs to do, we love what we do, coaches do too, student athletes do too, but it's those people that come in either after they've gone through a program like ours, or volunteer, well after their kids have graduated. It's all those things that athletic department family that we really, really appreciate. So I want to say thank you to all those that remain part of that family, remain part of our department, even though you may not have a specific role in it. You're cheering for our fans. There's people who do the chain games. I see some of them out here. Alumni that come back not just to honor their former coaches, but to be part of Westborough High School. That makes our campus so much more enjoyable than just if we were running it, right? Let's think about that for a second. What makes it work is all of us. So thanks for being here. As you'll soon hear more about, the list of accomplishments of these inductees is simply astonishing. We got Paul Bilodeau who's here, the humility and the strategy and the commitment that he demonstrated as a coach in a lot of different sports at a lot of different levels. I coached basketball, I was his athletic director at the time, and just so impressed with how he took over for Dick LeDuc and how he made it his own program. We get Dan Brady, the incredible feats and performances from plays in the hole as a shortstop to his right. He's a lefty, right? So he goes to his right, ball gets in the glove very easily. Then he's got to turn and make a throw to first base and get that kid from St. Peter Marion out. I remember that vividly. It was the third baseman's ball. He couldn't get to it. Danny did. And then, obviously, on the mound, things he did on the mound. And lest we forget about basketball. There's not a shot at Clark University that he couldn't hit. And I'm a member of that group. I know Joanna is too. We talk about Dan Brady every time our team is in the tournament. The 2007 volleyball team, that was such a special time for me too. The spirit, the family atmosphere, they set the standard for the volleyball teams in our program. On the apple picking and the family festivals and their play. I mean, just incredible. They had great talent, but they utilized that talent to build everybody else up as well. Ellen Sowa, didn't see her perform, but I know Ellen is a field hockey official, and I hear from Joe Mawhinney the intensity and the passion that she performed on the field with was just second to none, and one of the best all-around female athletes Westborough's ever seen. John Doyle, see John, you know, I came in as an AD and he was going out as a coach, and I remember him coaching girls cross country and with Clark, just I learned a lot in that 1 year that you know that I observed you, and I remember a lot of them, and I utilize some of those things today. And it comes down to dedication, commitment to the kids. To the kids. The job is one thing, but focusing on the kids is another. So, most importantly, all of you did it with class. All of it with integrity, a sense of purpose, and a consideration of teammates, not yourself. We're very proud of your accomplishments. They serve as a fine example for all current Rangers. Some are in the audience here today. The students, the faculty, the coaches. I'm very glad that in the Athletics Hall of Fame, you know, we have a way of honoring all that you've accomplished. But it's ultimately character that matters most, as much as the accomplishments, if not more. And the character makes Westborough students and athletes who we are, and coaches too. That character often is displayed in athletics, where a player's ingenuity and intellectual agility and passion are tested, along with his or her physical grace, courage, and the ability to raise the play of their teammates and student athletes on other teams. So today we honor the very best of the student athletes from classes past, and we ensure that their feats will always be remembered. We're so proud to have our inductees with us, and I thank those of you who remain part of our Ranger family. Some are coaching with us today. You're inspiring younger athletes and coaches to do what you do well. Also, I want to invite those who may not have been able to give back yet, that just let us know. There's always a spot here for you at Westborough High School in our athletic family, because once a Ranger, always a Ranger. Congratulations.
So today we'll be presenting the inductees with a plaque for them to take home, and then in the coming weeks we will have a plaque that is permanently placed in our Athletics Wall of Fame out by the gymnasium. So some of you that came in may have seen that if you entered by the auditorium. If not, again, after the ceremony, the building's open. We encourage you to take a walk down to our gymnasiums, and you can see the Athletics Hall of Fame that is now permanently displayed outside of our gymnasium. So the plaque for the class of 2019 hopefully should be up in the next couple of weeks. All right. At this time, it's my distinct honor to bring probably the most excited person in the room up to the podium, and Mike Healy, and he's going to be here to do the introduction for Dan Brady.
Thank you, Joanna and Brian, well spoken, and I couldn't be prouder to make this introduction. I'm pinch hitting today because Bob Poole couldn't be here. Bobby was supposed to be Danny's presenter, and for those of you who don't know Bob, he was a great baseball coach, and he was also, more importantly, the head of the guidance in middle school, and had a profound impact on so many of the children that we raised here in Westborough. I moved to Westborough in 1964 with my family. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. I was coached by Joe Mawhinney, who will be presenting today for John Doyle. Everybody up here I know pretty well, and this is a distinct honor to be able to introduce to me one of the best all-around people I've ever met in my 55 years in Westborough, Dan Brady. I first met Dan when we were playing, and Frank Desiatis here, he'll verify this, in the Old Timers Softball League, and he was 7 years old. It's a Sunday morning, and this kid is running around in the outfield, and we all think we're pretty good ex-jocks. And we couldn't believe who he is. And I said, "Who is this kid, Frank?" And he said, "That's Paul Brady's son, Danny." My son came to see me that weekend, and he said, "Hey, Dad, I'm in Danny Brady's class." So that's how big a deal Danny was as a kid, growing up as a leader from the time he was just a small boy. What he did here as an athlete will never be duplicated. Brian's already mentioned, he was a left-handed shortstop in baseball, and I remember that play he's talking about against St. Peter's, and I started seeing that when he was 8 years old. Everybody in the entire district in Little League knew about Dan. Now, his father, Paul, had a big impact, and his mom, Nanette, who's here, was kind of the godmother of the entire group of kids in our class, and I'm so thrilled to be able to talk about Dan to all of you at this occasion. When Danny got to high school, we told Bob Poole, we said, we have this left-handed shortstop, and he's going to be the best player on the baseball team as a freshman. Now, Bob's a pro baseball player, one of the all-time greats from Ashland High School, great shortstop himself, and he couldn't believe any of it. By the middle of his freshman year, Dan was playing varsity shortstop, besides becoming the ace pitcher on the team. After all he'd done before that, none of us were surprised. We go to all the games. He played 91 high school baseball games. He only played a 20-game regular season. So that means he played 80 consecutive high school baseball games, many at shortstop, many as the best pitcher in the history of Westborough High School, and I include great guys like Al Hubbard, John Greska, and some of the greats we've had before them. This is just my opinion. 91 games he played, most triples as a hitter, second highest batting average as a hitter, most runs as a base runner, second highest RBIs, but the most important thing that Danny did to those teams, he was always the go-to guy, and he just raised the level of hopes and aspirations of all of us who watched him and all the kids who played. And as good as he was in baseball, I honestly didn't think it was his best sport in high school. He's one of the two best high school basketball players I've ever seen in the 55 years I've been here in Westborough. Paul Bilodeau, who'll be introduced later, could tell you about his accomplishments because Paul had the privilege of coaching him 4 years in high school, first on the JVs, where he went right by the JVs to the varsity. Once again, Dick LeDuc said there's no way a freshman is going to play on this varsity. And by the end of his freshman year, Dan was the leading scorer on the varsity and was just getting started. There's a great coach from Milford High School, Steve Manguso. Everybody knows Goose, and once again, if Paul Billet wanted to, he could talk to you about Goose and all the great battles between Milford and Westborough. And Steve Manguso said, without a doubt, the best high school basketball player he saw in his career, coaching in the Midland League, was Dan Brady. And besides all the things he did, and Brian's already mentioned, his performances in tournament games were just absolutely beyond belief. Culminating in a championship in the Clark tournament where Danny was just impossible to stop. I can't remember how many points he got. But beyond all that, what made Dan so great with my son's group in the class of 2003 was the leadership and the humanity he showed. I remember when he was a little boy, and we had a couple of kids, the late Buddy Clark, AJ Pinto, and these kids were from very struggling situations. And I remember, I cannot count the number of times that Paul and Nanette Brady and Dan Brady had those kids stay with them and just show them what a really good family situation is supposed to look like. Danny was the leader of the pack all the way through. I had the privilege of watching him play. I don't think we'll ever have another guy like him around here. And it's a great honor to introduce in the class of 2019, Dan Brady to the Westborough Athletic Hall of Fame.
Wow, that was on a whim. I asked him about 20 minutes ago to do that, so talk about a Hall of Famer. Thank you. It's pretty awesome that he was able to make my speech today, because him and my dad were two of the first coaches I've ever had. Those are amazing times, so thank you so much. I just want to thank, first and foremost, my mom and dad. They're here today. Nothing changed because they were here. They were there for every game. They still help me every day. My mom's with my daughter right now helping me. So thank you so much to my parents. And my extended family who's here, my neighbors, my brother, my freshman year, my brother was a senior. We were able to play on that basketball team together. Those were some incredible memories, even though we were 2-15, which was a terrible, terrible record. My sister will be part of the 2007 volleyball team. So she technically is also getting into Hall of Fame today. So my brother's over there stewing, and he said he might even boo later today. But I do want to say he does hold the high jump record at 6'8" here. So he's waiting for his invite into the Hall of Fame. But I moved all over after high school and in college, and after college, and a couple years ago I was able to come back to the area. I got an invite, I got a phone call from Coach Willer, the basketball coach here, a couple years ago, and it got me back into Westborough High School, and I'm able to coach the JV basketball team and the baseball teams the past few years. And it's just been an incredible honor to come back here and work for the school system, the community. You can see how great they do things here. I don't know if they do things like this at every school, but Mr. Carlo, Mr. Callahan, everyone involved are truly class acts, and I really, it's been an honor to be able to come back here and coach. And I've learned so many great things from the people of the past. I know Mr. Callahan was talking about the Lou Holtz quote that he said, "You don't become anything without the help of so many people." So because of what I learned growing up, starting with my parents, my coaches, my early coaches like Coach Healy, and then my middle school and high school coaches, it created what has allowed me to become a great coach today. Thank you so thank you so much for the opportunity, and it's so great to be able to come back here and be able to coach and be part of this again. So thank you.
Basketball team, and now invite up Marty Hayes, who will be doing the presentation for Coach Paul Bilodeau.
I got one fan in here. It's tough following like you. But I will be shorter. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Callahan, Mr. Carlo, and the Hall of Fame committee for this wonderful event. Excuse me. Second of all, I want to talk a little bit about, it was mentioned a little bit earlier from Mr. Callahan about the Ranger family. There are some of us that have been lucky enough to be student athletes, and some of us were able to come back and coach. Two of them are being inducted today, with Danny and my inductee, Paul Bilodeau. It's a good privilege, it's a very good privilege. Honored to be a coach of both football and basketball here for anywhere between 15 and 17 years. A lot of good times. But it's a special place to come back and coach if you're able to. And I suggest, I know Mr. Callahan said that earlier, if you know people that can, it's a great to come back and give back to the alma mater. My inductee is Paul Bilodeau. Paul graduated from Westborough High School in 1971. He played 2 years of varsity basketball for the Hall of Fame coach, Dick Ledoux. He played 2 years of varsity football for the legendary Hall of Fame coach, Joe Mooney. He migrated in the football program, he migrated from a freshman coach in the middle 80s to a varsity coach under the Hall of Fame coach, Jan Gibo. He coached both JV and freshman and took over as defensive coordinator for the Super Bowl team in 1998. We won't mention how many points were going against them in that game. He also coached a Super Bowl team in 1989. Paul's love was then and is now basketball, always has been. He coached for 23 years in the basketball program here. Starting out as a JV coach, went up to a varsity assistant, back to a JV coach, and then inevitably took over for Dick LeDuc in his last 6 years as a head coach. In those 6 years as head coach, he won 2 Midland League championships, 2 Clark tournaments, and in 2005 was named the Central Mass Division I Basketball Coach of the Year. Obviously, an incredible coaching career. But what people may not know about that same person, Paul Bilodeau, is other ways that he gave back to the town and the school. Other than his coaching duties, he volunteered in many different ways. Paul went several times without taking a paycheck. He would take his coaching check and find out from the football program or the basketball program what may be needed that was not in the budget, and would turn around and give some of his salary back to them to help out the program. When I was able to come back coaching, he went back to the JV coach because he wanted to have his own team. He allowed me to be the assistant of the varsity program. He gave me his coaching check. I was volunteer assistant, he gave me that back. Just truly a giving man. He has done it so many different ways. It was my pleasure to coach with him both in football and basketball. I have known him for over 55 years. I'm proud to call him my friend, and also would like to welcome him to the class of 2019 Hall of Fame.
I just want everybody to know that I taught Danny Brady everything he knows. That's why he's the player he was. I'd like to thank the school and all these people who put this out and for inducting me into the Hall of Fame. It's a great honor and a privilege to be part of this. And I'd also like to thank all the coaches that I coached with. I've learned something from every one of them. From Joe Mawini, Joe's famous line, he'd come into the locker room, "I love the smell of a locker room." That's the thing I miss most about not coaching. And Dick LeDuc, I coached with him for I don't know how many years. And I learned how to yell and scream. And how to get technical fouls. But no, I learned a lot. And Brian Willer I worked with for a while. Brian was my JV coach, freshman coach, and now he's doing a great job with the varsity team. And I'd also like to thank all the kids that played for us. I don't know if people realize how much time and effort goes into these kids' practices and games and things like that. And they deserve a lot of the credit that goes on here at Westborough High School. And just again, thank you everybody for doing this. And again, it's an honor and a privilege. Thank you.
And next, we'd like to invite Bob Gendron up to do the introduction for Coach John Doyle.
Good morning. When Coach Doyle asked me to do this introduction for him, he said, "Why don't you come on over the house?" He says, "2 days. Keep it clean. And you only got 5 minutes." So he told me about the time how he actually got the job in Westborough. And it was in July of 1969. He had met Coach Mawini prior to that, but all of a sudden an opening came about in '69. And he met, I think it was a Forbes school, with Dr. Kelleher and Coach Mawini. And lo and behold, after a few hours, he was offered the job. Dr. Kelleher really liked Coach Doyle is military background, and he was all on board with hiring Coach Doyle right out of the gate. So Coach Doyle's response with his physical education degree was, I'll have to think about it. See, he was a Dorchester guy. He wasn't so sure about coming into Westborough and starting all over in Westborough, Massachusetts. But he took the job. He had to convince his girlfriend at the time, who became his wife, Erica. And he didn't move to Westborough right away. He wanted to make sure things were going to work out. But he came to Westborough, got his feet wet, and truly loved the experience. Moved out here and had a family with 3 great kids as well. When he first got here, one of his first things he accomplished was he started this rec program at the Forbes School, and it was Saturday mornings, and you could come and you'd play murder ball or dodgeball, and he loved the challenge. Coach loved the challenge. You know, all the better athletes, they'd want to be together, and they'd want to do their thing, and he'd just sit back and he'd play with the kids that weren't as developed yet, and he'd play with them. And he'd take that ball and wing it as hard as he could. And he would knock kids flying, and we never won. We never won. But it was important to give everyone a fair chance. We did indoor soccer. We did all sorts of Saturday morning activities. It was great to get the kids involved with all of that. He also, early in his career, he coached with Jan Gibo. As early as 1972, they had an undefeated freshman football team. And it was the 2 of them. But it's never easy coaching kids as freshmen if they've never been introduced to the sport. And in football, many kids are coming out for the first time. A good number did play in the Red Devils, but a lot of them didn't. And for those ones, it was a challenge. It was a lonesome time because you have to get up on speed quick. Things like just getting into a proper stance and, God forbid, learning a playbook. But those guys made the experience fun. They did it with passion. They treated everyone equal and respectfully. And many, many kids obviously went on to have 4-year experiences playing football. But those guys did a great job, including on rainy days. They had their best times. After we got whacked around with the dummies from doing all the drills, when it came time for sprints, we would be running through puddles. Those were the sprints: run hard, go through puddles, and that experience there made the kids want to come back. And that undefeated team was a great example of how those guys worked together with that. Also, I should have mentioned from the beginning that early in, I shouldn't say early, but Coach Doyle's coaching career was led by his 19 years of coaching cross country. And he really was passionate about that. He really respected the girls and their efforts and how hard that they put into all their time and effort in cross country for 19 seasons. But Coach Doyle's real passion truly was football and baseball, and probably baseball was his true passion. He had some outstanding teams. He coached some outstanding kids. And from all my experiences talking to all of these kids, they all had the same story to tell. I was trying to get some information. Give me a story. And I was getting stories, but all the stories came back to the same point. The 1976 team started off 15-0, and he let us be themselves. Superstitions, hairs growing out, and but that team was very talented. He played everyone fairly. Al Hulbert, who graduated the next year, would talk about how he felt he was never overused, and he could have been overused because he was gifted. But even through graduating in '77, Al always said that he was as prepared as any player could be. And when he got drafted by the Red Sox and went right into the New York Penn League, he was as prepared as any player was in that level, including setting the New York Penn League record for ERA for the Boston Red Sox, which held for a long, long time. But that came from his preparation from Coach Doyle. Probably his pinnacle point for his coaching career was that 1980 baseball team. And that team wasn't loaded with stars, but it was loaded with good players that were dedicated to the game, dedicated to practices. Every practice had a reason, every drill had a purpose, and every situation, both offensively and defensively, you did time and time and time again till you got it right. And if you didn't get it right, we're staying out there and we're gonna keep on doing it. Every drill meant something, both offensively and defensively. His attention to detail was to a point where games were easy because practices were challenging. The infield, outfield, in the words of Jimmy Brown, were legendary. When he had that fungo in his hand, it was time to go to work. In the infield and outfield, balls would come screaming at you, and he would tell you, coming in hot, and he would hit the ball harder and harder and harder. And when it came game time, it was a peaceful time because we were as prepared as anybody. The other coaches out there, the other players out there understood the way, in words of Jack Wallace, that Coach Doyle was a field general, that his teams always came prepared, did their drills, infield, outfield, and when the game was over, win or lose, everybody got the home plate and we ran bases. And you ran them properly. Everybody touches first. You do it 2 or 3 times. Everyone would run a double. You make sure you go around, you throw his glove or his hat, run around. Don't step on the hat. And you go around and around and around. And if you missed a base, not the individual ran, the whole team ran. Everybody was in it together. Win or lose. You probably didn't have to run after you won the state title. But other than that one time, every team, every game, you ran. Probably one of the funniest things I remember was you never wanted to get hurt. You never wanted that raspberry. Because if you got a raspberry, you get that can of whatever it was, and they'd spray you. And the faces on all the coaches, when it stung, everybody, no, don't go near the coaches. And Doyle was as good as anybody. Shake it, get over here, I gotta clean that up for you. But there was one time though that Coach Doyle made a student athlete take the field against his will. And the kid got hurt, but Coach Doyle insisted he get out there. And what happened was, his son Jimmy, middle school baseball. Jimmy was on the middle school baseball team. And he got hurt in sewing class. No word of a lie. Got a needle in the finger. So Jimmy decided, I'm hurt. I'm going home for the afternoon and that'll be it. Everything will be good. So lo and behold, here comes his father. What are you doing? He goes, Dad, I got hurt in sewing class today. I don't think Coach Doyle was too pleased because Jimmy ended up at that practice a few hours later. So, but that's the way it was. It was always, we're going to do things, we're going to do them the right way. At this time, and also I also want to mention too about the 1980 team in winning the championship against Reading, North Reading, a 2-1 win for Westborough. Obviously, a tough game at 2-1, but they had a pitcher that his name was Dennis Livingston. He went on to get drafted by the Dodgers. And in that game, somewhere in the middle of the game, Livingston was pitching and he wore a pin on his hat. And it's not part of the uniform. Coach Doyle addressed it with the umpire, and the umpire agreed, it's not part of the uniform. You got to take that pin off. So Livingston did. He wasn't happy about it. It rattled him a bit, and it also upset the opposing coach. But that was from talking to some of the guys. That was a key point of that game. That Coach Doyle was on top of that, playing by the rules, and lo and behold, those guys. That was one of the points that helped that team win that game. At this time, I'd like to lift up Erica Doyle, John's wife. She passed away on Good Friday, and she was always there for Coach Doyle. She was always there for him as a supporter. She always had a big smile on her face, was always thankful and appreciative of everything that Coach Doyle achieved as a coach. He was always there for all the kids. All the kids to this day coach like the way Coach Doyle did. I see kids out there doing it, teaching generation after generation of kids now coaching the same techniques that John Doyle did. And that, Coach Doyle, is a great legacy. So I ask Erica Doyle to join me right now as we introduce the next Hall of Fame coach for Westborough, Coach John Doyle.
See, Bob made it sound like that it was a tight ship that I ran.
You can ask
I
anybody.
didn't sleep tonight because I refer to it as maybe a benign dictatorship. So I can live with that. Anyway, it's really nice to be here today. Nice to be anywhere these days. One of the things, I'd like to thank the people that were involved in my selection here, committee, and people who nominated me. And I also want to thank all the other inductees today. I know most of them are a lot of familiar faces here, former students, former athletes, whatever the case may be. And this is a special day for all of you, and you think it's important today. Wait 10, 15, 20 years from now, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger as you start embellishing. You know, you get 500 people there, whatever the case may be. You find it kind of reminiscing go down the road at that time. I started here 50 years ago last month, right over there on the practice field, as Bobby mentioned, with freshman football, and then ended up going into 3 other sports as well. The one constant through all of this for me that was the most supportive was the coaches that I worked with or worked under. They brought 3 important things to my life, especially when I was first starting out. They offered me time, they offered me answers, and they offered me their camaraderie. And I found that to be true, all the way true. And it had nothing to do with how your season was going. It was all about, you know, the interactions we had many a day in the locker room. We had so much fun in that, especially that football locker room, those first 5, 10, 15 years at Westborough High School. And the kids had no idea just how well we got along as coaches. And that's so important. Coaches got to get along, you know, and that, kids pick up on that. And they learn the same sorts of ideas. I have a long road that got me here to Westborough, and I try to be as brief as I can. Back in '61, I had a chance to go in the Air Force and spend a few months down in Texas, and then I deployed overseas for 3-year hitch over there. We didn't call it a deployment back then. We just said it was like a PCS move, permanent change of station, from one spot to another. So I went overseas to Central France, and for 3 years. And of course, when you first are in the service, you don't have too much rank. So I only had one stripe when I got over there. I was an E2, what they call it, pay grade E2. I got over there and somebody took me aside and they told me, they said, you know, just about everybody on this base outranks you. So don't feel bad, it will get better. And he says, I'm gonna tell you a couple of things that will help you keep your nose clean. And I said, well, why are you picking on me? He says, well, everybody needs a little help along the way when they get in a foreign country and they're hanging around all their buddies. Anyway, he said, when you're walking around the base, he said, you're gonna be walking by a lot of things, and a lot of people, and you gotta understand what the rank system's all about. And anybody that has stripes on the sleeves, you don't salute them. Anybody with rank on their shoulders, that's a commissioned officer, that person you salute. So to be on the safe side, what you should do is, when you're walking by anything or anybody, just salute it. I said, well, that's easy. I'm young, I'm dumb, I'll salute everybody, that way there I'll catch them all and I won't get in trouble because I didn't salute a commissioned officer. So anyway, I said to the guy, I said, well, you know, what if you walk by something and it's not moving? Do you salute that? He says, well, if it ain't moving, he says, pick it up. He says, you know, we keep a clean base around here. I said, well, all right. Then he says to me, then I said, well, why? I said, well, what if it's too heavy and I can't pick it up? I may have a bad back. He said, you're dumb. He says, if you can't pick it up, paint it with Air Force blue. And the problems are solved. Anyway, over there in Châteauroux, France, where I was, I had 3 guys who were really my mentors. 2 of them were World War II veterans, and they stayed on, and they were still in the service when I was. And they were, you know, some of them were players, some of them were play coaches in my capacity with them. And one was from was from actually San Antonio, and lived out the rest of his years in a town called, I forget what it's called. Anyway, he retired in '89, and then another guy was out of Ohio. He was a World War II vet as well. He was one of my mentors over in France. And then the third one, the guy that is still alive, he was a first lieutenant at the time. He's retired out in the Phoenix area, and he was very instrumental in me being able to get from where I was in France, you know, with a good experience of playing sports over there, to getting a scholarship to go to school, and then use the scholarship and GI Bill to help myself get through college. After I got through school, I ended up, as Bobby said, with that meeting downtown with Dr. Keller and Joe, and took the job here and stayed here many years. Bobby already talked about the teams that were special to me. The baseball teams, and I had some cross-country teams too. And, you know, I never shared this with anybody, but I was looking for some extra things out of kids when I coached them. You know, I always wanted a kid that was maybe understated, but maybe overproductive. I always wanted a kid that didn't show any anger when he lost or any arrogance when he won. And I obviously wanted the kid that left his ego outside the locker room door. To me, the priorities were not the student first. The student was, you know, subjected to the whims of what the needs of the team were. But yet, the team wasn't the ultimate thing for me either. It was really the integrity of the sport that you were playing. And it was very comfortable that way. I'm comfortable in my own skin when I talk in those sorts of terms. I need to think about a couple of things up here that I'm forgetting. That ADT was good. There's something each sport brings to me, brought to you as an athlete when you played it. And they're different for different sports. If you're playing a sport like, well, if you're in track and field, or in my case, if you were doing cross country, you really were getting a lot out of everything you did each day, and you couldn't hide. You had to come in empty every night, hopefully emotionally as well as physically. And the best part about cross-country running is this camaraderie. I don't think there's a sport around that can match cross-country running for the camaraderie potentials that it has. Baseball, different sport, different needs, 5-skill sport, very difficult game to play, and very difficult sport to play successfully at a high level. A lot of kids who are good athletes in other sports can't just jump right into baseball as easily as they think. It just doesn't work that way. Football is a game where there's so much self-sacrifice, it's just, you know, it's indescribable. Spent a lot of time with those type of kids. I had 2 years coaching golf at Westborough High School when I first came here, spring sports for me. I pretty much had a lot of freshmen and sophomores, and they went on after I left to take the baseball job. Those kids went on, played the junior and senior year at Westborough High in golf, and were very good. And so they, you know, they walked the fairways for me. We had a pro over here at the golf course that was giving our kids free golf lessons right up here in the old gym. Those things you don't know about. I'm very happy to be part of this ceremony and be a part of this Hall of Fame. I know a lot of the people that are in there, and many of them are not with us anymore. But this is a great town to be a part of. It really is. There's so many support systems in this town. And if you are lucky enough to go to this high school, you'll appreciate it more and more the longer you're away. Because this is the place you come back to. Everybody has to have a place to come home to. And you've got it. You've got the town, you've got the spirit in the town, and you've got Westborough High School. And what's there behind it? That's all part of the same thing. So I'm so happy one of my sons is here and his wife. They flew in. Jim came in from the West Coast, and Teresa came in from down around Virginia area. And looking at this award here, I just want to say one thing, and Bobby mentioned her as well. I share this award with my wife Erica, who passed away 6 months ago today, as a matter of fact. So this is for her. Thank you.
Mr. Mawhinney, you're up. We're going to now ask Joe Mawhinney to come to the podium to present Ellen Sowa. How's those knees working out? Take it down.
You have no idea what this is. It's unbelievable coming back here, year after year, when they have the Hall of Fame, and seeing former students and coaches and parents. It's just a wonderful time. I was assistant principal at one time here too, for 14 years. And Dan Brady our high jumper over there, you owe me a detention. You can pick that up on the way out. And just in case some of you people out here are worried about the pennant that was missing for 15 years, was stolen in 1975. The last reunion I was at, I got one of the students, former students, to confess who stole the pennant. And I promised I wouldn't tell who it was, and that I would go to my grave first. And don't you know, about a week later, I got a call from a kid, and he's not a kid anymore. He wanted to know if I was still alive. So unfortunately,
We could have done it, named the field after.
yeah, I know, yeah. It gives me great pleasure to be here today to introduce Ellen Sowa to this Hall of Fame. You know, yesterday, 2 women walked in space for 8 hours. And I swear that if the times were different, that Ellen Sowa would have walked in space. A strong student in science, and with different times, she would have gone into something different. But she's making a tremendous contribution today where she is. Ellen played field hockey, basketball, softball, and also participated in track. And a lot of people don't know that. It's not only athletics that you're looking for here. You're looking for somebody that has that extra special something to be in the Hall of Fame. And she was the type of kid that was a trumpet player. She was the first trumpet player in the band. She played the guitar. If you went to St. Luke's, you'd hear her doing the folk mass. She's a member of the Honor Society with a strong background in science. Now, 36 years ago, she played here. It's been 36 years ago, Ellen, that you hung up your field hockey stick, your basketball cleats, or your basketball sneakers, I mean, and your glove. And you're still remembered. And this is the great thing about Halls of Fame. Halls of Fame are for those people that did extraordinary things in sports here, but it's what they do after. And while she was here, she was a member of the field hockey team that went to the districts, and she also was a Telegram and Gazette first team selection in field hockey. She also scored 21 points at Assumption College in the districts for Westborough High School, and started on the softball team as a sophomore. Quite a gal, quite a gal. She was fast, quick, and tenacious. I mean, it was like a blur watching her on the field hockey team. She always demonstrated good sportsmanship. She could knock somebody down, help them up. Just what you'd want. Never a sore loser. She always showed respect to the faculty, her teammates. She was a caring person, and she was always fair. Starting to lose my voice along with everything else here. Sorry about that, if I look back in my seat ahead of time. She goes on to UMass and gets her degree in exercise science. From there, she goes to Springfield College and gets a master's degree in teaching and administration. While she's there, she doesn't just go to school. She has to go out on the field, fields down there and do intramurals. enhancing her ability to know more about the sports that she may be teaching someday. Take it to the present. Ellen is a physical education teacher at Framingham. She's been coaching field hockey, her beloved field hockey, for 23 years. It's my pleasure to introduce Ellen Sowa, our next member of the 2019 Hall of Fame. Ellen Sowa. Hold up while I get over here. My knees are starting to go. The other one.
You're doing great. Wow, it's quite an honor to be up here today in front of you all. I want to thank the committee who elected me to this Hall of Fame. It is quite an honor. I want to thank all of the people who put this together. I want to thank my wife Leslie and my family for being here. Two special people, so I'm going to cry. Two of my biggest fans can't be here today. My mom and dad, I know they're looking down, and my father's saying, get out there and get going. They were at every game, whether it was here as a Ranger, or whether it was at UMass, or when I was coaching in New York. But they were my biggest supporters, and I know they'd be very proud today. Looking back at the pictures, I saw some of my old teammates, and it brought back such memories. And it just made me realize how much I loved being a Westborough Ranger. And it was the start of what I wanted to do for my life, loving sports so much, going on to be a physical educator and health teacher, and to be a coach. And that's all. Thanks so much for
musical talents and her athletic talents all at the same time. I don't know if you remember this, Ellen, but I first met Ellen as an official for our girls lacrosse program. So Ellen's been a long-time official in the state of Massachusetts, certainly one of the best. And we're at a district game one day, and wherever we were, I can't remember, couldn't get the national anthem to play. And Ellen, in all of her black and white stripes right before game time, said, "I'll do it," takes the mic and sings the national anthem just as our teams are getting ready to play. It was one of those moments that I think will always stick out for me as to just one of those things that you do. The anthem needs to be sung, let's sing the anthem and play the game. So that was a fun memory for me. The next group that we're about to introduce certainly holds a special place in my heart. When I was hired here 13 years ago, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and this group thrust me right into what it meant to be a director of athletics at a public high school pretty quickly. It was an amazing group of women and coaches that came together to do something incredibly special for our school, for our community. They won our first girls state championship in the history of the school, and they did it in a fashion that just brought everybody in this town along for a ride. I still to this day can't believe the amount of community members and former students, anybody that they could pick up in the Rotary, decided to jump on board with this team and follow them along on their journey of winning our first state championship as a girls team. So it is my honor to bring up not only one of my colleagues, but certainly has become a great friend of mine, Roger Anderson, who was the head coach of that team, to talk a little bit about the girls volleyball team of 2007.
So this is fairly amazing for me. There's a couple things that I'm noting. I think I can look around in the room and see what I might look like in another couple decades. And for the first time in quite some time, I'm feeling pretty young, which is great. When I first arrived at Westborough High School, the people that you see here were my mentors. And they were people that they may not even notice or known how much I looked up to and admired and carefully watched what they did. because I saw the impact they had on young people's lives, and it was exciting to me to be potentially having that opportunity. When we talk about a state championship team, and this one has particular pride for me because it was the first girls state championship team title in the history of Westborough High School. You kind of think about, so what did it take to get to that point? There's a tremendous number of people involved in that, tremendous amount of community support, other coaches, Frank and Karen Desiata, who for a long time in Westborough ran the rec department, had worked together with some of us to create a volleyball clinic in the summertime. I remember the first time we ran that. I'm quite certain they lost money on it. I think there were about 8 kids that showed up and had no idea what was going on. That was back in 2000. And the team that ended up coming out of that was just one of the most utterly dominant teams. I think they were, a great group of people, and you'd see them in school and have a good time, and as soon as they stepped onto the court, you did not want to be on the other side. Over their last 2 years, they were 45-2. The only 2 losses they had, in 2006, they lost a 5-set battle by a final score of 15-12 in the 5th game to a team from Medfield who won the state championship in 2005, 2006, 2008, and 2009. In 2007, the only loss they had was against a team from Barnstable, who in the past 20 years has won 15 Division I state championship titles. And so they proved themselves to be just an utterly dominant team on the court. I think what makes me so proud of the team is that I feel they are emblematic of what Title IX, which was passed in 1972, was all about. And that was about equal access for everyone, but it had a tremendous particular impact on women. And when I first started coaching, I would ask the girls on my team, did any of your mothers ever, play sports? And when I started, there were very, very, very few. And now I look at the young women that I get to coach now, and I ask them, and a great majority of them did. And I think, certainly I haven't met Ellen Sowa, but I'm really looking forward to right after this, having some conversations with her, the opportunities she got, some of the other sports, team sports for women. And I don't think people recognize Joe Mawhinney was on the front lines of providing opportunities for girls and women. And he fought some battles prior to my time being here to create opportunities for women that I think, all of the girls here, Mr. Carlo, this team, are tremendously thankful for, Joe, that you were doing that for our town here and for, the girls and women who came through here. This team has gone on since playing at just a fantastic level to become doctors, teachers, nurses, anesthesiologists, midwives, writers, physical therapists, businesswomen, career hikers, coaches. We've had a number of them come back and be our coaches here at Westborough High School, head coaches, JV coaches, freshman coaches. You'll see 5 of them come up because the remainder of the team is in places like Guam, doing hospital education, Italy, Germany, Ireland, training to become a doctor, Miami, Kentucky, Tennessee, Connecticut, and we've had a number of them that have stayed here. We have a couple that are one employed as a teacher here in the Westborough Public Schools, making a difference. And so I think as I think about them, they set a standard for what young women can do. And they engaged a community. If you've ever come to any of the volleyball matches, when they were here, it was just an unbelievable atmosphere of joy and support. And so I would just like to thank them for what they did for the future generations of the girls in our school and the young women that came along behind them. And I often refer back to a John Wooden quote when they say, how do you know if you were successful as a coach? And John Wooden's answer is often, ask me in 10 years. Well, it happens to be 12 years ago since these young ladies graduated now. And I feel like we had a pretty successful season, obviously on the scoreboard and winning a state championship, which is a tremendously difficult thing to do, but in the people that they became, and if we had some small part to play in that, then how lucky are we? So I would like to congratulate the 2007 Girls Volleyball State Championship team. This is Danielle Coffey. She was a all-state player in the winter. She came back and was an assistant coach with us, and now she is a head coach of a girls volleyball team at Tantascwa High School. Kristen Collins was a member of the team. She also has come back and coached for us in our track and field program. Sarah Barnes earned her doctorate in physical therapy and has come back and helped us out. Alex Sincata is actually a teacher at the Mill Pond School and our current JV volleyball coach. And Gail Heim is a world traveler and has all sorts of different things that she does, but she loves to hike and has completed the Appalachian Trail, the Long Trail, not the Long Trail yet. She's done a tremendous amount of hiking, so she's been everywhere. And at the end, I just wants to say a couple words.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for this honor for our team to be in the 2019 Hall of Fame. We all would just like to say thank you to our families and friends who followed our journey in high school. It's a pretty big deal for us. I still remember it like it was yesterday. I still tell my teams exactly what it was like, all the hard work we all put in to get there, the challenges, but also the excitement in seeing our community in Westborough High. My family, who grew up here, Karen and Frank, came and watched us, and it was just, it's a phenomenal experience. It's a blessing to be a part of something completely bigger than ourselves. This is a huge community. I love my teammates. I'm really happy to see actually all of you come back. So thank you to Roger for teaching us. He's still a mentor. So it's a huge honor and a blessing, and I'm really grateful for you guys. Okay.
That was so fun. From what I remember, like I said, I was in my first season ever, and I think I blocked out part of it, but from what I remember, we had a blast. It was awesome. And you guys absolutely set the standard for the success that our programs have had in the last 10 years through all levels. I think that we used the 2007 volleyball team as a model for many of our other programs to say, this is what we can accomplish when we all have a common goal and we all work for that common goal. So I personally thank you for bringing us on an incredible journey. At this time, it pretty much concludes our program. I have just a couple other quick announcements for you. Karen Henderson has been in the back of the room from Westborough TV. She's been filming the entire ceremony. I believe Westborough TV will be streaming it, but we also can make this available to the families and to their guests if need be. So we can contact the TV studio and we can ask Ms. Henderson, just ask for Ms. Henderson, and she'll be able to get you a copy of the ceremony. We also have a volunteer in the back, Michelle French, who is a mom of one of our student ambassadors and just been doing an awesome job for us taking pictures on the field. And I roped her into taking pictures of today's event. And so I'm sure Michelle and I will be able to potentially get some of these pictures up online, and we'll be able to contact you and let you know how to get a hold of some of the photos. I also am incredibly proud of another project we completed last year, which was the renovations to our outside facilities. You have some time before the football game, and if you'd like to wander around campus, as we mentioned, wander around the building, you're more than welcome. As you make your way down to the football facility, not football facility, multi-purpose facility, but the football game, there's also a new field that we've created up on the hillside that many of you guys will remember as the old practice field. The Jimmy Hayes Field has been completely renovated with a brand new turf field. It's an incredible facility. And if you have some time and would like to take a little bit of a walk up the hill, I truly encourage you to do that. This is just another sign, another signal of the immense support that this community has for our department and our programs, and how willing they are to invest in our kids. That was a $5.5 million complex that we've put out into our athletic facilities, and it's something that I think every single person in this room, whether or not you personally contributed or played a role in the building of that, should take pride in, because without the work that you put in and the standards that you set in the years before I even got here, we would not be able to accomplish things like that. So it's something that I really encourage you to take some time, walk around our facility, ask some questions. I'm sure anybody out there that was a part of it would love to answer. And then lastly, we do ask that you can spend as much time here in the cafeteria as you'd like. It's a beautiful day out there, but if you want to continue to hang around, we do have some cake left over. The coffee and those things will stay out, and we want you to feel free and visit with one another as long as you'd like. So again, at halftime, about 2 or 3 minutes before halftime, when there's 2 or 3 minutes left in the third quarter, if the inductees could come on down to the main gate, I will get you all set up, and we'll introduce you at halftime of the football game. Okay. But other than that, I want to thank you all for being here today. Really enjoyed having you here, and congratulations again to all of our Hall of Fame inductees.
At this time, we'd like to celebrate the 2019 Westborough High School Athletic Hall of Fame. I'd like to introduce you to the 2019 Westborough Athletics Hall of Fame inductees. In a ceremony held earlier today, the following individuals are recognized for their service and dedication to Westborough athletics by being inducted to the Westborough High School Athletic Hall of Fame. First up, Coach Paul Bilodeau, class of 1970. Paul was a longtime staple at Westborough High School football and basketball programs, both as a player and a coach. After graduating, Paul coached 23 years in our basketball program, filling many roles. During his time as head coach, he's led his team to 2 league titles and 2 clock tournament champions. One last round of applause for Coach Paul Bilodeau, class of 1970. John F. Doyle, coach. Coach Doyle coached and taught in the Westborough Public Schools for 33 years. All told, John coached 50 seasons at Westborough High School in various sports, including cross country and baseball. He led the 1980 Rangers baseball team to Westborough's first ever team state championship. Once again, congratulations to John F. Doyle, coach. I saw this kid play. Danny Brady, class of 2002. Danny Brady led both the basketball and baseball teams during his career at Westborough High School. In baseball, Danny continues to hold many Westborough High School baseball records, including games, innings pitched, wins, ERA, strikeouts, and saves. As a basketball player, Danny reached the 1,000-point plateau and is still second on the Westborough High School all-time scoring list. Danny has continued to stay involved with the Rangers athletics by serving as the JV boys basketball coach. Again, a nice round of applause for Danny Brady, class of 2002. Ellen Sowa, class of 1983. While Ellen was a gifted athlete on the softball field and basketball court, it was her contributions on the field hockey field that truly set her apart. Ellen finished her senior season as the team's leading scorer and was named a Worcester Telegram and Gazette All-Star and MVP. Ellen has continued to give back to the sport she loves as field hockey coach at Framingham High School and is a top-rated high school girls lacrosse official. Congratulations, Ellen Sower, class of 1983. Last, the 2007 girls volleyball team state champions. We have a few representatives here today. The 2007 girls volleyball team was one of the most successful teams ever to wear a Ranger uniform. The 2007 team went undefeated in mid-watch play, en route to their overall record of 23-1 for the season. Along the way, they faced many of the top volleyball teams in the state. The season culminated in a team earning the first girls team state championship in Westborough High School history. This team included many incredible women and coaches that inspired a culture of winning amongst our volleyball program that is second to none. Some of those here today: Daniel Coffey, Kristen Collins, Gail Heim, Alex Incata, Sarah Barnes, Jesse Brady, and coaches Roger Anderson, Jason Langevin, and Brian Baudel. Outstanding. Congratulations to everyone, and congratulations to all of our Hall of Famers today.